na. Wake up, Billies, wake up, Billies. Everybody gotta put the time in. Wake up, Billies, wake up, Billies. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB, be yourself, see yourself. This is the show of people. Billies our hopes up to needless reason. Nobody feel about it, the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah. Love, respect, selfishness and cooperation. That's all we need to build a strong nation. We are the people. Changes, we are the changes. WB, and all the things that will be happen like that blue skies. I love it make people get victimized. Let's work together for better. We got to unite. Billies, yeah. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. Another day is here. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. We gotta keep moving. Na. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. Everybody gotta put the time in. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB, get up, make every day count. Don't waste it, people. Do your part, play a role, get where you need to. You can tune in for work or in your vehicle. If you got a problem, pick up the phone. Why wait till the time calling? It's a show with no matter even if you're at home. Just call in. WB, wake up, Billies, wake up, Billies. Another day is here. Wake up, Billies, wake up, Billies. We gotta keep moving, na. Wake up, Billies, wake up, Billies. Everybody gotta put the time in. Wake up, Billies, wake up, Billies. Voice our opinion and place your calling.
All right, welcome. This is WUB, Wake Up Billies Morning Vibes. It's a Friday morning. It's the 7th day of February 2025. I'm Nuri Mohammed, and we're happy that you've joined us this morning. Like yesterday, we have another exciting program lined up for you this morning. We hope that you will stay with us for the entire broadcast. As you know, we go through certain steps. First, we give you a look at the weather. We bring you up to date on the news. A little bit after 7 o'clock, we'll open up the phone lines so that those who wanted to get in yesterday and couldn't will get a chance this morning. And a little after 7:30, we'll bring in our guests for the morning. We go now to Miss Crystal Rosales for an update on the weather.
Good morning. A slightly moist east to northeasterly airflow prevails over the country. In the 24-hour forecast, skies will be sunny with some cloudy spells today and then cloudy at times tonight. Isolated showers or light rain will linger mainly over southern areas and the Maya Mountains this morning and then gradually decrease. Then a few showers are expected to develop mostly over coastal and central areas tonight. High temperatures for today will reach around 84 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 87 degrees Fahrenheit inland, and 73 degrees Fahrenheit in the hills. Low temperatures for tonight will reach around 76 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 68 degrees Fahrenheit inland, and 65 degrees Fahrenheit in the mountains. Winds over the open sea will be from the east to northeast at 5 to 15 knots, and sea conditions will be choppy. And then high tides occur at 7:08 this morning and at 5:33 this evening. Low tides at 10:48 this morning and then at 1:41 tomorrow morning. The moon will rise at 1:21 this afternoon and then set at 3:11 tomorrow morning, and then sunrise is at 6:22 this morning and sunset at 5:50 this evening. The extended forecast for Saturday and Saturday night. A few showers will be scattered around the country on Saturday morning, which will gradually decrease and then become isolated. And in the sargassum update, while surface observations have shown a slight increase in sargassum reaching some beaches across the country, satellite imagery continues to suggest very low amounts over the region. Therefore, impacts are expected to remain minimal, at least for the next few days. Sargassum will then likely increase towards the end of the month. And this has been this morning's weather report from the National Meteorological Service.
The first private radio in Belize since 1989. Creme FM presents news. Informative, accurate, current information, local, regional, and international news, weather and sports. And now, the news.
In the wake of the tragedy involving 5-year-old Pablo Arellano, who attended Stella Maris School, the Ministry of Education has committed to work with the school's administration to determine where they can strengthen security protocols. The school has a total of 128 students. Minister of Education Honorable Francis Fonseca spoke of the existing number of staff.
We have 3 school wardens, we have 2 watchmen, we have 23 teachers and 14 support staff. So we have long recognized that it's critically important to have a lot of people watching these students and taking care of them. But tragic events like this, sadly, give you an opportunity to even look at what you're doing and say, maybe that's still not enough. Maybe we have to do more. And what's sad as well is that we have big plans for Stella Maris. We have a whole project that will completely transform Stella Maris. Will provide new fencing and new buildings. Completely transform this place. We'll equip it with all the facilities that are needed for people with special needs. So it's a very, very big project that we have that should come on to start in the next few months. So we've 2 years of planning, 2 years of preparation for that project. We got it approved. We've got the financing in place. So all of that will be factored into this project, and all of that, security, making sure, again, we've upgraded the training and the capacity of the people who are here. So yes, we'll take a look at everything. We want to ensure that what happened to little Pablo does not happen to any other student here.
Fonseca, like the Belize National Teachers Union, has also expressed their support for the school and the work that they do.
Stella Maris School, I can assure you, and assure the Belizean people, have a long history with Stella Maris School. It goes back to even to my childhood. That's a school that has served this country exceedingly well. We have very good, well-trained teachers at Stella Maris School. We have a good principal. The entire team there. We have good, I know them personally, I know all of them, the school wardens, I know care deeply about these children. The teachers care very deeply about these children. So I want to, encourage the Belizean people to withhold judgment until we have a final report on this matter. Because Stella Maris School is an excellent institution that has served the needs of our children with special needs for, literally dozens, decades, from the 1950s or so. So it has a very proud track record of excellent service. And we have very good, dedicated people who work there. So I want to assure everyone that despite this very tragic, sad incident, that Stella Maris will still continue to provide that very good service to that community and to our country.
Meanwhile, in the wake of this incident, one primary school in the Cayo district, Arms of Love, is updating their security policy and has advised parents that going forward, the school gates will be closed at 8:45 a.m. daily, and that parents and visitors accessing the preschool must use the main gate instead of the usual entrance. The Belize National Teachers Union, BNTU, has already scheduled a No Teacher Left Behind protest rally for today in Belmopan when St. Andrew's primary school teachers in Cayo went on their own sick-out last week, Friday. They are fed up with the government and management's inability to resolve the persistent late payment of increments. Also of note is that the protest rally has already been scheduled when the union learned that some teachers had in fact received their increments in December, would not get their payments until January due to calculations from the management. So today, a house meeting day, teachers will be protesting wearing their signature green t-shirts with slogan, "Value Teachers, We Matter," end of quote. When we caught up with the Minister of Education, Francis Fonseca, on Wednesday, we asked how they perceive the position of the teachers that the Ministry of Education is ultimately responsible to resolve this matter.
No, I think, the BNTU, obviously, they have a mandate from their membership. They are advocates on behalf of their teachers, so they have every right to protest. As I understand it, they're having a protest rally at the UB Gymnasium in Belmopan on Friday. No, and listen, we have been in very rigorous discussions with the BNTU for months and months and months. We're trying to address an issue that goes back many years. So we've been working on that. And I think what is important is that the BNTU, certainly the Council of Management, and I think the great majority of teachers across the country know that our Ministry of Education is acting in good faith. We have sat down with them respectfully at the table to try to address all of their concerns. Unfortunately, we were not able to do 100% of what we wanted to achieve in December. But, almost 95% of the teachers got what they were due. But we have had some delays, and so we hope that everything will be fixed by the end of February. And I think the union understands that and knows that. I fully respect their right to do what they're going to do on Friday. But again, we remain committed to resolving these issues in dialogue with the BNTU.
The Public Service Union has urged its members to participate in the rally to express solidarity with the teachers. They will move off from the Sir George Brown Field at 9 a.m. this morning. There's been a scarcity in the country of risperidone, a medication used to treat the symptoms of schizophrenia, which is a serious mental health condition that affects how many people think, feel, and behave. Reportedly, for about 3 months, there has been none to be found in the country. Yesterday, Minister of Health, Honorable Kevin Bernard, admitted that there is an issue with the procurement of this urgent medication, but said that they have placed an order.
If you're referring to patients suffering from mental illness, there has been some issues, but the ministry continuously try our very best to procure these medications in a timely manner. There are times that it's very scarce, out of our control, but just recently I know we recently ordered some of these urgent medication. These are very delicate medications, and we are making sure that we can make these available in a very timely manner. So I cannot speak much to that, but I can tell you that we are doing everything possible to ensure that we have supply in country, so that we are able to attend to our patients that needs these services. Now, we have people that are housed at the Palm View Center and other facilities that we do provide these services to. The demand and supply chain sometimes constantly disrupts our medication supplies, and so we have to look around and see how best we can address those things. But let me assure those persons and those families that we're doing our very best to ensure that we have those medication in country, so we could provide to those who need that.
In November 2024, at their last press conference on the state of the Belizean economy, Central Bank Governor Kareem Michael, revealed that remittances were estimated at $222.3 million from January 2024 to September 2024. For 2024, the remittances from the United States were estimated to be $188 million. Remittances are channeled formally through Western Union and MoneyGram. Speaking at a press conference 3 days after Donald Trump took office as President of the United States, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis outlined a plan to stop illegal migrants in the U.S. from making money transfers.
Another way to reduce incentives. So what happens is people will come illegally because they can work more menial tasks but make a lot more money in the U.S. than they can in like a third world country. So they'll come, make money, and then they send money back in remittances to the host, to their family, friends, wherever, to the home country. We are going to impose ID verification for foreign remittances. So you have to show, it's like an e-verify for remittances. The money transfer company has got to run you through to make sure that you're lawfully able to be in the country and to send money outside of our country. That will be a huge deterrent for people coming to the state of Florida illegally. I think the Trump administration is going to do something on remittances, but I think they may need Congress to do some of that, and who knows whether Congress will ever do anything. So we have an opportunity to do it here in Florida, I think in a way that makes a lot of sense.
It has been pointed out that the Belizean diaspora is concentrated in the areas of Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York. And as DeSantis himself shared, this is not a national intention at this time. There are also questions about policing such a policy and workarounds that people could find. Notably, in the case of other countries like Guatemala, the remittances they receive are in the billions of dollars. In 2023, according to the IDB, remittances to Guatemala was estimated at $19.8 billion. That's our news package for this morning. There's more news coming up. After the program that follows us around 12 o'clock, there's also an update at 3 and a full news broadcast at 5:15. Here on XTV, we bring you the entire news package at 6 o'clock this evening. It's now 10 minutes to 7 o'clock. We'll take a short break, come back, we'll open the phone lines and begin our conversation for this Friday. Stay tuned.
The first private radio in Belize since 1989. The news. Informative, accurate, current information. Local, regional, and international news. Weather and sports.
All right, welcome back. This is WUB, Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes, and our phone number is open, and it's at 280-5848. You're welcome to call us. A lot of things are going on. It's amazing how this one man, and when I say one man, at the top of a human being, we have to go to the toilet every day. This is a human being. But he's drawing so much attention to him that even before his election, he is the talk of the town. What's he going to say today? What's his position today? What, outrageous thing is he going to say today? And within the governance process, you have what is called check and balance. But the check and balance is normally within the process of governance, within the process of the government in the policies, etc., etc. And that is usually happen within the three pillars of government. They call it the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, that they balance off each other based on the Constitution for the betterment of the human society. But then there's a fourth estate that is called the media. And that media, or the newspapers as it was originally called way back when it was named the fourth estate, because at that time they didn't refer to it as media. But today, because it is such a wide area that goes beyond just a newspaper or a broadcast, now with electronic media and with media coming from so many different sources, that fourth estate has been expanded. Now the fourth estate really is talking about editorials, opinions that are written in the newspaper or broadcast through other media to in fact check and criticize constructively, not run down or run against, but to look at whatever policy or whatever action comes from the executive, that it can be challenged in the media. Does it make sense? Is this the right thing? Should we say anything about this? So the media has a strong and a powerful responsibility to call truth to power and not allow something to be said by a president, a prime minister, or anybody in authority that the media does not pick up and give a fact check. Second, put it within the context of what other leaders have done. Put it in the context of what is going on in the protocols of the world. And if it is not correct, the media is responsible, just like our area representative, just like somebody else who has been elected. The media is responsible for calling them out. Here's our first call, and I have finished my point here. Welcome, caller.
Yeah, I got them. Who comments?
Okay.
Well, we need an opposition, but the one we got right now, we don't have a position. All right, so we get the they got certain the people in the opposition, Tracy, Patrick Farber, Hugo Pat, Arabi and Nuri, so mess up Arabi and Lima. I don't vote, because I don't believe like whether you vote for them, they don't want anyway. I live back up, vote. We're going to big vote where the minister pass through and he write through every day. And he not address it. And he live right on the corner of the area. But then, such is life. Alright, that's my thing. But new person to mess up Lima.
All right, yes. Continuing on what I was saying, the media's responsibility is to call out governments whenever they make a move. The opposition within the country has a legal, constitutional responsibility to say something. The media doesn't have a responsibility as far as constitution is concerned, but by the protocols in free societies, the media has the responsibility, especially men of words, as Eric Hoffer calls them. men of words, which also mean women and men of words, have a responsibility to call out whenever you see something is not correct. This opportunity you have every morning on these talk shows is your little 2 cents on a matter. And believe me, if an issue is out there, many 2 cents, 2 cents, 2 cents, 2 cents gather up critical mass and government will listen. But if one person calls, they monitor that, well, there's not much concern. And not only our local, but even our international people are listening to us and how we think about various issues. As a matter of fact, about 20 or 30 years ago, I was speaking to a former CIA agent who was responsible for Belize but stationed in Guatemala. John Stockwell was his name. And he said to me, people think that the CIA is like James Bond that goes in with guns, etc., etc. He said, no, the main work of the CIA in areas like Belize is to read our newspapers and to listen to our talk shows and to see what are the important issues to these people so that they are in a position now to do their own manipulation in terms of their policies in regards to that government. So media is extremely important in keeping people informed and keeping power in check. Now, what has been the media response in the last 3 or 4 days to Mr. Trump and his outlandish, crazy, mad suggestion that he's going to wipe the Gaza, for people who live in the Gaza, he's going to wipe that out and push these people into another country. And then he's going to turn the Gaza into a resort area where people can sit and enjoy and look at the sea and be very happy in this Rivera type setting. And the media is just reporting it. Nobody is really getting crazy and say, what is wrong with this man? Well, are you crazy? Are you talking about you're going to go into an area and just wipe that out on behalf of Netanyahu, who has been, as the Prime Minister of Israel, attempting to do something very similar? Cleanse that area, ethnic cleansing, move them out. And now you, as the President of the United States, really following on the pattern that you had even before. Remember, he was the one that decided unilaterally that he is going to look at Jerusalem instead of Tel Aviv as the capital of Israel, when Jerusalem is in an area that is run by the Palestinians. And it might have made a little blip in the headlines for a little while, but Jerusalem is now the capital of Israel. And here he comes now with another preposterous suggestion that has implications not only for that area, but that is like siding with Guatemala. And Guatemala decides to walk into the Toledo district and say, look here, this back and forth, look, we're taking over this area. We're annexing this area. And you've got a president in the United States already looking at Guatemala who has a very favorable position to Israel and saying, well, listen, you back me up anyway, you go ahead and do that and we will work that out. Don't worry about those Belizeans, we'll work that out. And here you have us now going up in arms, making noise. Maybe even the Caribbean, CARICOM will join us in making the noise. This personality in the office, in the Oval Office of the United States, look as though he don't give a damn what you say. He don't care what you say. He will go ahead and do what he wants to do. So I'm going back and saying the check and balances here really require more voices in calling Mr. Trump to check. And that includes us here in this area. The statements that were made at The Hague by Assad Schuman, Dr. Assad Schuman, are extremely provocative words. He spoke truth to power. He didn't lie when he said the Israelis have done what they have done and that the United States Biden administration facilitated the process of the killing of those over 70,000 people. And so therefore, by calling them out, and in fact from the ICC, the International Criminal Court in The Hague, accepting the case of genocide against Israel, and Assad Schuman as representative of Belize joining onto that case, they are observing that. Their State Department is looking at that. Just as they're looking at every other country that has joined onto that Mr. Trump says now, 2 days ago, that he is now authorizing the Justice Department of the United States to look into all of those individuals who have been part of the investigation into this accusation of genocide, with the idea of some kind of punitive action against anybody who is investigating Netanyahu. I mean, this is wild. It is crazy. I remember when we were growing up in school, in high school, they used to tell us about Hitler and how terrible Hitler was, and oh, he was this terrible man, and you know, all these images of Hitler was always there. You saw his salute, or you saw him, you know, raving mad, you know. And the Jews who were oppressed and suppressed under that system, once they got freed of that system, they used their influences through Hollywood, through all these methods to bring out. I mean, we were, the Diary of Anne Frank was required reading. You didn't have required reading on the slave and the oppression of black people in slavery, but you had required reading for the Diary of Anne Frank, which was to say that look what they did to us as a people. Look how they have suppressed us as a people. How come nobody is doing that today? When we're seeing systematic, organized state terroristic move against the people. How can we take the knife that stick the sheep and then switch it when we stick the goat? Is the human being, when they are Jewish within the confines of World War II Germany, different than the human beings who are in the Gaza being bombed, innocent human beings? So we've got to be free to think, and to think outside of the confines of our fears. We don't want to say nothing because, boy, you know, America's so powerful, they might start to pull back some of them things when they give it. Then don't they pull it back? They're already pulling back USAID. They're already pulling back these external aids that they are giving to developing countries. They're already pulling it back. He said, we're going to put it on a 90-day pause to determine whether or not what you are saying that you're doing down there in Belize, in fact, is what you're doing. And if you're not doing it and it doesn't match our policy, we'll plug you out. This is what he's saying, and you're not saying anything. Welcome, caller.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, I enjoy your show. Yeah.
Yes,
but
sir.
I think one mission, like you have Belize to the United States, but right? Well, we have the United States more about Belize nationalism, nationalistic to be that. You know, you have to cover the country for kid coming up to force man or woman, no? Nationalistic have been taken away out of this country people head, no?
Well,
Something like that, if I can understand. That should be the number one, but see my people are going not to know what it is, or that should be happening, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, things have changed, my brother. I'll tell you, if you go back and you look at how much people used to go into the streets in Belize years ago. Now we don't go into the street unless it's a union issue, unless we don't go in on any broad issues.
Where do I just go back to?
Say it again.
Where do I even go back to?
Well, if you just remember the history of our public meetings, which was NIP and PUP.
No, I say the era, like, yeah, just I just want to be that era. Then I could go ahead. 19 what?
Well, those were in 1950s, 1960s, yeah, and political meetings was a means of which the opposition was informing people about what the government was doing, whether it was a PUP opposition or a UDP.
Mid-60s.
I'd say the mid-60s, 70s. I'm saying consistently we have, yeah, but we only seem to have public meetings now.
No, I was speaking about from then. We were well nationalistic people.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the way, from 60s, like you say, I take that figure to now 2024, 5. You know.
Yeah.
I say, well, hey, probably for early 60s, the nationalistic in the people has disappeared. I would say, due to a political conversation, you know what they say, propaganda. School is propaganda too, you know.
Yeah.
But I remember good and bad propaganda. And somewhere along the way, some bad propaganda has been putting it out there that could simply take away the nationalistic of the people. Then the people get hurt, I say, kick a word and then jump out of. Like the people get in. Like they get too fire.
Yeah.
Good morning.
All right, my brother. Thank you very much. You know, there was a time when we the people, and I'm not only talking to that political experiment some years ago with a political group called We the People. I'm talking about just the concept, the Lincolnian concept of we the people. We the people, you know, and that we run this, that we are citizens and that we are strong and that where we say go and that you are our representative. Those values, I could remember like maybe around 78, the same time we were talking with Dylan Vernon about the working with Spare. There was a groundswell at the time. Some people say maybe it was influenced by Cuba and all these other ideas. The fact is, there was an effort being made to make nationalism a reality. Why do you love Belize? What is Belize? What makes up Belize? Who are these different ethnic groups? What are their histories? All of that seemed to have been a rolling stone in the 70s and early 80s, just going into independence and right after independence. There was nationalism in the air. Whether it was PUP or UDP, there was a talk about we love Belize and we're all about Belize. Now, today, it has become a more sentimental kind of thing. I want to say it, but I don't really, the things I do don't really reflect that I'm nationalistic, that I really love this country, that I really care for this country. I want, but I don't want to give. Where you got to give me? So we have turned our society into a kind of a mercenary boy, that who they give what and where they give who. And I blame the politicians for that. Because they saw that, guess what, money moves people. And by the way, when you read Dr. Dillon's book about clientelism, it is not only here in Belize that is going on. In Grenada, in St. Lucia, in St. Kitts, politicians buy votes. Or they have clients that when they get into power, they remember that they have to satisfy these clients. And this is going beyond just what they call campaign finances that usually come from the bigger people. No, even the smaller people believe that you owe me, I may vote for you. So the nationalistic aspect of what we're trying to build, a consciousness about what we're trying to build, is not there. It's very individualized now that this politician want to do better for me than this one want to do better. So I don't give a damn about no nationalistic principle. I'm interested in what you could do for me. So we have been reduced down to consumers, even in our politics. We're consumers rather than nationalists. And when I'm saying nationalists, I'm not talking about that old time Belize right or wrong. I'm not into that. If Belize is wrong, you're wrong. If Belize is right, you're right. I'm not into my nation, wrong or right. I'm not into that kind of nationalism. But loving your country, distinguishing your country, ensuring that you are doing the best you individually can to make sure your country is the best country, even if it means picking up one piece of garbage in front of you like George Price used to do. You got to prove that you love this country on an individual basis rather than, listen, boy, who the cuss out, who know, yeah, the true boy, so they stay for true. That's how we become. So, I go back to some universal principles now that we are being affected by this president's choices. Do you know what will happen if Belizeans are prevented from sending remittances down here? When the news report just said that we are upwards of $222 million, coming into Belize? How could we survive if that becomes a nationwide move on the part of governor of Florida, that they start blocking Belizeans from sending home money? We will be in serious problems because the government cannot satisfy our economic needs. They've admitted that. We're not generating enough money, enough jobs, enough opportunities. We don't have enough, we call it BPO, what they call these things here, call centers to satisfy the need of all of our population. So we have to depend on these remittances coming in, which includes why man the bottom there, they hustle weed. It's not justifying it, it's just saying if I can't find a job and I try to help my family, I want to end up like rat want to find the cheese. We can't think that we will deprive and you could ride around in your SUV, a poor person will look by you and say, well, for you that, no. Instantly he'll think, well, this thing is skewed. You to get where, and I know to get. So when I get a chance to get, I want to get. Man, if you think it's any different, you need to walk the streets of Belize and listen to people. People don't have no, oh, I'm going to try to be holy and I'm going to be, no. If my daughter need one laptop in a SJC and somebody come to me and tell me, boy, my brother just left me his laptop for me, I don't want it, you know, I try to say, we and buy it. Even though we know when we look for a man there, no, he never paid no $3,000 for that laptop there. We and buy it. We and do it. And we go to church the next day because we just feel, boy, that's how this thing go. So we need to be vigilant on the change that is taking place, and we need to be aware that matters such as this threat that you're going to take over the Gaza, that you're going to clear out people and push them into countries that have already said we don't want the Palestinians here. What are you going to do to fulfill that? Maybe he knows that it won't go any further than his rhetoric. Maybe he's aware of that. Maybe he's playing public relations with it. Maybe he's just trying to continue to do what some people are calling the Machiavellian madman theory or madman approach. Look it up, it's there. He's utilizing a concept that is in the governance process of 300, 400, 500 years ago. And he may be doing it strategically. Let me be a madman, and then, well, I'm crazy over here. I could be doing these things because you all are concentrating on my craziness, which is not even going to become a reality. Maybe that's what he's doing. But maybe he's not. Another thing that he has done during that same day's announcement is to say that wherever they see expressions of anti-Christian bias, that those persons who are emanating that kind of bias will be in trouble with the US government. Now, that means that the government of the United States will come to the protection of a particular religion. And that if you say anything about that religion that is anti that religion, you'll get in trouble. You can say about the Jewish, it's already happened. You can't write or say anything that you are not being screened for anti-Semitism. So that means Christianity and Judaism are being protected by the US government. And what you call Islamophobia, or saying what you want about Muslims, or saying what you want about Islam, is open season. So you could question the cross and we'll come knocking on your door. But if you talk about the revelation to Muhammad and Muhammad's in relationship to Christians and and Jews and other people, even though it's outstanding, you could hide that. You could have people come up and say, oh, these Muslims are crazy, they're a raghead, and they look to kill people, and they're terrorists, and so that's free. You could say that. That's not anti. You don't get weight for that. You don't get in no problems for that. But if you dare say something that is anti-Christian, we're going to knock on your door. Welcome, caller. Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The devil sit on throne. You understand? You see the devil could trick millions of lots of people like, just like that. So probably Mr. Trump have that powers. We tell the people like us that, hey, we don't go so and find some land. Or the next country you could take some. And then we have fixed it up, make it be like a tourism setup or something similar thing to see. Making money then. Yeah. And I believe that's why I believe, in my sense, why we give Mr. Musk or what the guy sorry for the name, but some to that effect. Mm-hmm. And the other people in the house who want to know how much powers you got and blow up everything now.
Yes, sir.
Like the nationalistic and the American people, they feel it because this guy had 34 criminal case against him.
Yeah.
And, and then the other one, the hush money thing. This guy got so to be. This guy got some kind of ghost or devil power.
No, he's smart.
Anytime a leader not in line with the country, outside of the job protected.
Yeah, but brother, let me tell you something. He is in line. Remember, he got a significant vote. Yes, his people.
Better put up in there and listen to your car and
Go through.
program.
Go through.
Listen to them.
Yeah.
You see what when I say they will sit on throne, they're like so, that way they're like looking Belize. The 60s, 70s, close to the 80s, people, the students from ABC to the colleges, normally go out hooliganish in the street. The nationalistic mission. You see, but when I'm saying Mr. Trump, devil sit on throne, like devil sit on throne, the guy have this deep influence to confuse any people. But I don't think in our morning.
All right. Yeah, man, thank you very. You're making good points, brother. Sorry to disturb you. Indeed, it's like devil sit on throne in the sense symbolically that he has awesome power. But he did not take over the government. He used a strategy that was a very effective strategy in order to get where he is. He started a campaign from even before he became the first president. And if you study him, you will see all his trend and his thinking has remained the same. He has not changed. He has just gained more influence, and there are more people identifying with him. For example, there are many good, righteous Christians, many that I know personally, that I can say this person is living a upright moral life, that is a supporter of Trump. Not because they understand all these policies, but because he has said one thing that has really attracted them, and that is that this transgender issue that has confused people, and this idea that even the US government is promoting homosexuality and lesbianism as a policy within their dealing with other governments. A lot of people are offended by that. There's a group of people up in the Cayo North, in Cayo, that are very, very upset when they hear anything that is coming out of liberal America. And they have condemned America long before Trump got into office, saying that America is going astray. It's a country without a rudder. And they believe that Mr. Trump brings the rudder for America, especially when it comes to that issue. Now, that's just one group. There's another group that have been very critical of people coming into their country, the United States of America. This is going back 30 years. If you listen to the speech of Bill Clinton during his time and the draconian way in which he dealt with people who were immigrants, it continued under Bush. It multiplied under Obama. It was maintained under Biden. So what this man to do, and the promises that he's making, is just doing it in a more public relations kind of way. Because as the attorney said to us yesterday, they can't just pick you up and put you across the border. They have to send you through a deportation process, which sometimes requires you being detained, but sometimes you just know that there's a deportation case against you. And if you are found guilty and deportable, you're deported. This has been going on for years. This is not Trump bringing this. But the way he has come with the public relations and all, these pictures of ICE going into places and you see people walking around like that, you think it's, wow, it's the first time this is happening. It's not the first time. So to the caller about him having the influence that he does, he has that influence because the United States in general have voted for him way past Miss Kamala Harris. And then even before he got there was a thing of loyalty among the Republicans as to who they're with Trump and who not they're with Trump. And because of this groundswell of people against immigration, people against this gender issue, people against this belief that America is being taken over by liberals and taken over by these other people, you have congressmen and women who were like fighting for their seat. They might not agree with Trump, but why? My people look like this, are going with Trump to save their seat. Do you know what that means? That means morally, I know they're with you. I know like you. But pragmatically, to save my own seat and my own situation, I'm going with you. I want to hold my nose and I'm going along with you. That is a sizable amount of the Republican Congress. And some Democrats that went along. The same with the senators. And because of the way in which the United States system works, it is the President of the United States that not appoint but suggests a person to be a Supreme Court judge. And then when they go through that Senate hearing, if most of the people in that Senate are my thinking, then my person will get in there. And so on the actual Supreme Court, you have a lot of people that side with the philosophy and the thinking of Mr. Trump. Though they have to litigate a lot of what are going to be brought in front of them, there's a bias there. Already we've seen it. It's now 7:31 and we'll stop now for 2 Cents Cam, which is brought to you by Fort Point Security. And then we'll bring it on.
So when they back up Peter Street, they do big up Friday. All right? And right now, you know what, on the Friday, we got to big up the people there. So we can find out the people there 2 cents. All right? XTV. All right? 4-point security. And you free to start rental. But big up Friday, who you big up?
Myself.
All right.
I'm a principal. And my co-workers there say, look.
All right. Big up Friday. Big up Friday. Who you big up? Big up everybody. That's it. Love don't say it.
Everybody all over the world, one love, one love, one love.
All right. Thank God, my son there, my daughter there, and son, and my grandchildren. What else do I want to know? I don't.
So I just want to big up God, and then I want to big up all my fans because you don't know I'm a big celebrity. And if you don't want to follow me on Facebook, you can follow me as the Ras Protege. Don't know. Boom.
WUB, Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes on a Friday morning, the 7th day of the second month, February 2025. And we welcome you and we're glad that you're with us. And please stay with us. We are going to open the phone lines with this guest because there's so much that he is aware of that we want him to share. But we will not open the phone lines until we've given him an opportunity to express why he is here. He is Jerry Enriquez, as I announced yesterday, has been here so many times before, focused primarily on health and mindfulness, which he represents so effectively. But today, we want to look at another area of his expertise because he has been a soldier on the ground dealing with so many issues, so many indigenous issues south. He has a Facebook page that is taking us way into the history of Pena, of Barranco, of the history of his own family, and so many contributions that have come from the Garifuna community. He has highlighted that. But this particular case is an interesting one, and I will ask why he got involved in it. And let me get right into the welcome to my brother. Glad that you're here, man.
Thank you, Brother Nuri. Always a pleasure to be here.
I don't know how much different ways I'm going to try to introduce you, you know, but we're glad that you're here, Jerry. Let's begin with this case that we know that the issue of redistricting has been the main thing in front of us over the last couple of years with the Belize Peace Movement taking the government to court and looking as though they have presented evidence that this thing can be done in a very short period of time, that it has been repeatedly kicked down the road, even in this administration, so that the last statement from the Prime Minister is that it's too close to election now for us to try to proceed with that. So let's pick it up from there.
Well, thanks for having me. And
yes.
As I mentioned, I've been writing about this redistricting for a number of years. I think I started around 2010 or so to caution the population to keep vigilant, keep observing what these political parties are doing over and over again to maintain the status quo. One party would promise, yes, we're going to redistrict, and then they win and they forget about it, and then we see this cycle over and over, including this current administration. When, in fact, just before the election in 2020, the Belize Peace Movement was attempting to have an injunction until the redistricting was done. The current Prime Minister, the current Minister of Constitutional Affairs, along with their attorney, went to court to block the injunction, citing the reason that it is already close to election, they were already preparing for election, and therefore there is not enough time, but also, as the judgment stated at the time, the horse was already out of the gate. But they promised at that time, as soon as they got into power, they're going to do the redistricting. These are the words from the Prime Minister. And then the attorneys, we're going to do it as soon as we get in. What is ironic about it is that one of the attorneys who went to block the injunction is now the current Minister of Constitutional Affairs and the era representative for Fort George. So he should have known better, I think, and all of them, to say, well, we are violating the Constitution and we must find a way to correct it. We keep promising the people, so now we must do it. All of a sudden, 4 years later, after a lot of maneuverings and excuses why they cannot do it, we're left now facing another election, which was probably going to be called today. And so it was in our interest to remind this government that they have a duty to respect the people of Belize, and they have a duty to protect the Constitution, to be guardians of the Constitution, to abide by the Constitution, as each of them have sworn to do. Each time there is a new government, these new elected area representatives put their hand on the Bible and they swear to the people and to God that they will abide by the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. So I don't want people to see this as we're fighting one party or against the other, because it's a consistent intervention that we're doing. Even when it was the other political parties, since then, and this political party. So both political parties are playing games. And we know why. They want to protect their small, less than average constituencies, electoral divisions, while there are other areas or districts that is malapportioned, large.
Clearly.
For example,
well, can I,
yes.
because I know you're going down into details, but one of the things that came to mind immediately is that the Belize Peace Movement had launched a similar case against the government. Why didn't your group join them, or is there a difference in your approach than the approach of the Belize Peace Movement?
No, I think that it's just a continuation of the tremendous work that the Belize Peace Movement have done.
So why didn't you join them?
I did contribute in advocating in the media. I even asked people, please join the Belize Peace Movement.
That's very clear in your articles.
I have written it in the articles and provided that kind of support.
Yeah, but why is it that you now have gone to hire a high-level attorney from TT and, seemingly launching this as, you haven't called yourself a group, but launching this simultaneously when it's already there on the table from the Belize Peace Movement? Well, just for clarification.
Yeah, the Belize Peace Movement have been, in a way, struggling just through the length of time with resources to secure attorneys, all of that. It takes a lot of effort and time and personal resources.
So your group has identified your source for it to be able to continue this?
We identified a new source.
Okay.
We could not find the kind of commitment from, I think even the Bar Association here in Belize, they seem to be very complicit with the status quo.
Why? I mean, they are guardians of the law.
They are, but they've benefited from scholarships to go study law. Many of them paid by the government of Belize.
Right, they're bonded.
Yeah, so it's almost like because each political party push forward their own
tragic, man.
Their own persons to go study law.
Yeah.
And it's hardly from the southern districts. You don't have attorneys from the southern districts, or hardly, but it is all centered in our own Belize city. So a Belize city-centric mentality for development to the exclusion of the other areas.
Yeah.
But my point that I want to make very clearly is, and I will ask that to the population to keep in mind, if you cannot have electoral division with 10,000 plus registered voters, as in the case of Stan Creek West and Belmopan. And on the other hand, you have in Belize City electoral divisions with less than 3,000. In fact, 3 Belize City electoral divisions right now equals 1 Stan Creek West or 1 Belmopan.
That's crazy.
It's a grossly distorted.
That is crazy.
And then the nerve for these men who are elected to say, we want to go through to elections, we can't do it. Redistricting, redivisioning of these electoral divisions doesn't take 1 or 2 years. There are guidelines that are already established that could take 3 months, 3 to 4 months. There are technologies that could make it happen within a short time. But there is a undercurrent of strong resistance.
So
And these men ought to know better.
they should. And I could remember during the 12 years of the UDP that the PUP at the time that was in opposition was hammering Dean Barrow. And in fact, even calling him out that you've had one administration, two administration, three administration, and you still have not done something that should have been done as far back as 2010 and even before. Why? And then now you get into government, and with all that rhetoric, you make 4 years pass you, and then when it gets up to the time of election, you use the same excuse that the UDP was using, that is, it's too close to election, we'll do it in the next time. So what is that? What's going on there?
There's a deep conflict of interest. Notice the two attorneys that the current administration hired. They're paying these attorneys with people's money to block the rights of the people in court.
That's a serious contradiction.
And so there's a deep conflict. Yeah. And these two attorneys were formerly ministers within this administration.
Yes, yes,
so they're working together to continue to breach the constitutional rights of the people. We elect them to follow the law. And then they're hiring people, attorneys with our money, who were previously ministers in their administration, to continue the status quo. And so I called on, and I keep calling on, the Belize National Teachers Union, the Chamber of Commerce, the Belize Network of NGOs. All of these organizations are silent and complicit.
But
as we see this downward spiral of our democracy, and we're in a constitutional crisis. Nobody's saying it. That is what worries me. Even the universities are not training their students to think critically and to see these
to get out and
you have all these professors, they're so comfortable and perhaps almost like living in their heads. They have to connect people with the realities of what is happening in the country and to chart a way for a better future for the future generations. Otherwise, we're living as horrible examples as to continue to tolerate all of this.
Are we doing something as Belizeans that the Americans are doing in a way? Because Americans on a groundswell is not talking loud about these issues that they see coming up with Trump. Even though you hear silos here and silos there, generally speaking. So is it that populations of today have become so distracted?
That I have a theory on that.
Yeah, that they don't have time to be thinking, and then people are accumulating power after power after, because basically this is holding on to power, really. But listen, we're going to have Mr. Enriquez here for the entire rest of the show, and we'll open the phone lines as soon as he comes back, because we can make this a conversation, even though he has many areas of this, legal case that he can still articulate. I want to know about this learned gentleman from Trinidad, former Attorney General from Trinidad. So when we come back, we'll give the phone numbers, and we'll have a conversation with your input likewise. welcome back. This is WUB on a Friday morning. Very exciting show this morning. Our guest is Mr. Jerry Enriquez. As I said, he normally comes in here on mindfulness, but he has a very novel case that he's discussing this morning. The government of Belize, in fact, is being called to task that elections, that there must be redistricting before there is elections. He's explaining the case to us, and we'll go back. As I said, we will open the phone lines, but let us give Mr. Enriquez a time to ventilate the entire case. Going back to you, brother.
I just that you mentioned mindfulness, I wanted to mention that this is mindfulness in action.
It is
You're
part
going
of
to deep
mindfulness,
awareness
indeed.
and consciousness and awareness of what is happening,
Indeed.
and then you move on.
Yes,
and then you were asking before, why aren't people moving? And you were making a comparison to what might be happening in the U.S. I have a theory that people, apart from survival, those who, let's say, make it, get into this comfort zone, and I believe it's a dangerous place to get. They're comfortable, and then their next step is, where can I go now? Instead of what can I now do to, what can I now give to society to shape society for the future of my grandchildren and the future generations.
Yeah.
People get into this malaise, this comfort zone, and say, well, let me go to Paris, let me go. And it is a thing that I see a lot in the diaspora also. It is a mind state that I've gotten this far, and what else can I do for myself in terms of material and sensual pleasures? And so people are not that kind of a social conscience, that kind of, how do I now, having been shaped by this society, what can I do now to contribute towards making those changes? So
it's interesting you're saying that, Jerry, because I could remember Martin Luther King and Malcolm both echoed a sentiment that seems to have been gone now, that unless you find something that you are willing to die for, you are going to constantly be in a state of oppression, because to come out of oppression, you have to say, you might not die, but you have to be willing to die, because this is a principled position. And both of them died as a result of their principle that they took. Today, we are give it on Facebook, we are talk about it, but we're not really willing to go out there and sacrifice all my material comforts to change society.
Right.
And it takes that to do it, you know?
Yeah, and so that's why I say being too comfortable could be, in a way, just does not help society at all. It doesn't make any change, and so people sit in their cocoon area and do not give, they do not care what is happening.
So how do we move this in a Belize
and we
that
sit in
is
this,
faced with that?
I think that's why I mentioned people need to develop a deep level of awareness and consciousness, and to be able to see down the road what is happening. This redistricting issue, for example, continues to fester, one party after the next. And here we are, all these organizations, everybody just sit down and almost like, well, it's something to just continue to the status quo. I listened to some of the media when they interview the prime minister. When is the election? No. When is the districting? Because you're continuing to promote this same violation of the Constitution. And for us to continue that over and over, I think we're doing an injustice to ourselves and an injustice to our fellow Belizeans.
Can you share some of the disparity in terms of how small is Fort George? How small is Pickstock? How small is the areas like Albert? And how large are the numbers in Belmopan and the numbers in
I have that data here. Like if that could be shown on the screen. Just for us to pull up that data.
Okay. Ms. Bilal, maybe, there it is.
Okay. If you notice an electoral division like Belize Rural South, marked in yellow at the top, 10,053 electors, and this is figures from July 2024, so I suspect it has gone up even more. And we have the percent, the deviation percent is the percent above the average. If we're to take the total number of voters countrywide and divide it by 31, that will give us about 6,400.
Each
constituency should have 6,400 voters. That is as equal as of just the mean, equal the average.
All right, I want you to continue there, but here's a question on that matter. Are we talking about an increase in divisions, meaning more than 31, or are we talking about cutting these up?
It could be within the 31 that we already have. It might mean merging some of the divisions in Belize City, because that's where the main problem is.
So if we
let me go down with the data, and then we just want to go. Can you please put back the data?
Yeah.
So we see Belize Rural Central at 20%. That's kind of within 10 to 15 is international standard. But then when you go down to Fort George, start with let's start with Albert. In fact, you could even do everything, but Colette at 45%, Albert 62% under the average, 62% under the average. Fort George 62% below the mean, Mesopotamia 65%. So even if you combine Mesopotamia, Fort George, and Queen Square roughly, Belize Rural South, they would not even meet that number for Belize Rural South. So all to say is really grossly distorted. Then you look at Cayo North, Belmopan, almost 60% above the mean. We cannot have an election with these kinds of figures.
What about people who say that no matter me, all I concern myself with that go to the polls, I don't care who, this is my constituency, I go and go vote, and I vote. I don't care if Stan Creek got more people than me, or if Belmopan got more, all the bit is the same.
Yeah, I know
which comes from out of that.
A lot of people are saying that, but
yeah, okay.
They must realize if any political party could win, it's still in this if it is properly apportioned, if it is properly and balanced, if it is divided in a balanced way. That does not stop an election, and once we have, but the Constitution gives the direction. The supreme law says you should divide these constituencies to as nearly as equal as possible. There'll be deviations here and there, 10 to 15%. But that is the law. Why will we have an election violating the law over and over? The Constitution is meant to protect people and to protect even areas of people. So, for example, all of Stan Creek and Toledo from the time ever since has 4 area representatives. Yeah. And Belize City, which is just was slightly larger in voter population, has 10 area representatives. Something is wrong with the system, and that has to be corrected.
So if
it affects the development of the country.
All right. What happens if, despite the fact that you're taking the government to court, that the government decides to call elections and go ahead with an election, and of course, it's presumed the PUP comes back into power? What then?
Okay, first let me make clear this position. I am not a PUP. I am not a UDP, because people tend to say, oh, he's a UDP.
Then they listen.
I want to make very clear, I do not belong to any political party. I vote, yes, based on my assessment on how they've done. In the past, I've voted for each of these political parties. And I was thinking to myself, each party that I voted for was the winning party. For some reason, I run an analysis. I run an analysis of how did they perform, and then I vote. But I do not align myself fanatically as some people do to one party, and so their whole view of life is very distorted because they're so narrowly fixated on their political party that they miss the broader national interest and the broader national goals for development.
So what would happen?
I could critique both parties, but so now, what will happen if they call? We have alerted the government that if you call, the first thing that we did is that we alerted the Prime Minister to please give notice if you're going to call election today. We send that notice and hand deliver the letters. And we mentioned, we also, in this letter that we sent to the Prime Minister, made note that any election without this redistricting is illegal and is in violation of the Constitution. Especially because each party recognized that, and they know. So if they knowingly break the law, then they have to be taken to court. So even if election is called, we insist that we will take the government to court.
How far will you go?
To the highest court, if
that means
necessary.
CCJ?
Yeah.
So the scenario
it might be a landmark case because we cannot have a government or a bunch of city-centric guys trying to twist the democracy to suit themselves and to entrench an oligarchy and feel this kind of entitlement because they were sons of former ministers, sons of former prime ministers, or niece or connected to the old party. They have to think beyond the party to national development with respect for the people. When you have that, you could still win, but you're winning and you're doing the right thing. You're respecting the Constitution that you swear to uphold. So even say, so help me God. So what are you asking God to help you
Yes,
for?
exactly. That's a big statement right there. So in fact, even if the PUP becomes the next government, your lawsuit really is against both of them.
The lawsuit is for the government.
The government that sits in, but since the opposition has also been consistently with the government on that matter,
so
then it's both political. So it's a PUDP that's in fact being sued, even though it's saying the PUP because they're the one in government. But you're saying something interesting, Jerry. You're saying that if come March or April, the PUP is re-elected, according to this lawsuit, you are going to be taking that sitting government to court.
We will take that government to court just because
if we understand how
they know from now, and we've alerted them. They have also know what the Belize Peace Movement has done. They know all of this. They know the Constitution.
Precisely. So they're going against. They're going against that.
It will be
so in reality, do we know how these cases go? If that case is also kicked down the road, could it be a situation where 9 months or a year from now, that particular case does come up to be heard? If you understand what I mean by that. Welcome, caller.
Good morning, Nuri. This is Sandra Coy.
Good morning, Miss Coy.
Good morning, Mr. Enriquez.
Good morning, Miss Coy.
When the American War of Independence was led with was tax on tea, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the people objected and all of that. And there was a whole confrontation between the colonists and the British government because they said that the Bill of Rights did not apply to Englishmen living outside of the British Isles.
Right.
So out of that would come the war cry, no taxation without representation.
Right.
What we have in this country with the persistent and insistent and resistant to change, the visioning that we have in this country constitutes just that. We are taxed without being represented. And that's not only that. They have to take the numbers off the ballot papers. If you want a truly free Australian ballot, because that is what it is called, the Australian ballot. They invented it, the Australians invented it. Then you cannot have any identification mark on the ballot paper to indicate that might be able to indicate division where each ballot paper is unique, that not go under the Australian ballot. So, and what is frightening is that every time not every time, we have had elections where they bring in foreign observers, and the foreign observers tell us that we have a little score here, a little score there, but generally you had a good election. We didn't have a good election. How are you going to have a good election if one division is 500 and the other division is 10,000? How are you going to have that? That's not just. The common sense tells you that that's not just. And what I'm saying is the battle cry of the American Revolution applies in this case. You are being taxed without having adequate representation, if any at all. That's what you're being. And it should be looked at. And by the way, they betrayed themselves recently, you know. They admitted to you all recently that it is and the divisioning is not an equal and just one. They admitted it. They don't even know they admitted it.
All right.
Thanks.
So if you go back over the news, you're going to find it, where they made such an admission. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Ms. Coy.
Why don't we take the next call?
Okay.
Take the next break, and that way we can come back and free the callers.
Okay.
Please. All right.
All right.
In Belize, we value our families. We value our community.
phone lines are now open, and it's 280-5848. You could make your comments directed at the subject, and our guest, of course, is our brother, Dr. Jeremy Enriquez. We do have a caller on the line waiting, and he is Bobby Lopez. As you know, Mr. Lopez is one of those members of the Belize Peace Movement who originally took the government to court in regards to the redistricting. Welcome, Bobby.
Good morning, Brother Nuri. Good morning, Brother Jerry.
Good morning, brother.
Good morning, radio listeners and TV viewers across the country. I am humbled. I am here with cold feet and chills because our prayers are being answered at the very last moment. You know, we honestly, when this little group called the Peace Movement, and by the way, everyone, it stands for Patriots Engaged Against Corruption and Exploitation. And rightly so, as Ms. Coe brought up, in 2012, it's embarrassing to have international election observers tell you, as a government, you need to fix this problem because it violates your constitution. They went further to state in their 2012 report to the government of Belize, please fix it before the next general election. 2015 came about. At that time, we were part of a little group called the Vision Inspired by the People, and trying to see how we can make our entrance into the political arena. And we reminded the government of the day of this breach of our constitution. Nothing was done. We attempted under attorney Hubert Elrington to launch a case in the court when the snap election was called only after 3 years, remember 2012 to 2015. It could not gain traction, and so nothing happened. Going into the next term, we kept the pressure on. Eventually, the government said we will do re-registration before we did redistricting, and we said, yes, both need to be done because the re-registration was already way past its limits to clean up the voter list. So they did the re-registration, and then we sent a letter to the Elections and Boundaries Commission at that time, and we said, okay, registration is now done. Let's move into redistricting before the next general election. I believe our letter was in 2018. Not even a response from the Elections and Boundaries Commission. And at that time, we made a decision between us. We must go to the next arm of government that are the guardians of the Constitution, and that is our judiciary. And that's when we started to look around for attorneys. And all those attorneys that are listening to us, who we approached and turned us down, know who they are. Many of them very vocal, laugh about, but no substance, no patriotism in their blood to do what is right. Finally, Arthur Saldiva stepped up and has been with us for the last 5 going on 6 years. We got into court, and in the very first sitting under Judge Benjamin, there was a strikeout motion, and Judge Benjamin scolded the attorneys of the government of that time and said, no, this is a very valid case, and I will listen to it, and I will hear no more of this. Within a few months, he was removed. He was no longer there. Nuri and Barajeri and the people of Belize, we've been through 5 judges in 5 years, going on 6 years now. Imagine, every time we thought we were getting a little closer. No, I'm not saying that's why it was happening, but it's just the way it has turned out to be, that we're now in our 5th judge. We went into court. They still called another election. We moved to our injunction, and that's when we saw the collusion equality is a foundational principle. If you Google it, Belizeans, participation is number one. Voter equality is number two as a pillar of democracy. And what we have in this country is a constitutional democracy, but they operate it as if it is a parliamentary democracy, and Parliament wants to trash the Constitution and just make the decisions on their own. We know it's wrong, we know it needs to be done, but we are holding another election and then we are doing it afterwards.
Bobby, let me ask you this. We are expecting to have a House meeting today. Both the government that you were talking about that was kicking it down the road and not addressing it effectively was the UDP. Now we have the PUP in government, and this case is being brought forward. I'll ask you this question for your opinion. There is to be a House meeting today. Normally on adjournment, it is the opposition that brings up cases that are not necessarily on the agenda but are important enough to be brought forward. Given the track record of the UDP as a party, do you expect that they will bring up this matter in the House meeting today? Because it's not on the official agenda. Do you expect that they will bring forward this group's, and perhaps your group by extension, concern about redistricting and make any demands as an opposition, since they themselves as a party did the same thing that this party is doing?
Well, I would sure hope so, and I'll give them the benefit of my very big doubt. But they all swore an oath to the office, as Jerry has quite aptly written in his article, and so they have an obligation, a responsibility to that oath of office, and that oath upon taking being elected by the people to uphold the Constitution. So I am challenging all of them, not just of the opposition and the ruling party. We are not against the government, and I really took issue when the Prime Minister was interviewed and he said, well, I had to hire these high-level attorneys because these guys are coming against my government. No, we should be on the same side of the Constitution. I would have thought that the Prime Minister would have said, yes, I will instruct the elections and boundaries who are an autonomous constitutional body. They should not be influenced by the government. Whichever party is in power, they are supposed to act autonomously, independently, and do what is right. And so I would have expected everybody, every elected 31 era reps, to have debated this thing. All of them voiced their opinion that what was sent to the House and has been sitting there for 18 months without being debated, intentionally kicking the can down the road. I personally represented the peace movement at the committee meeting and read our objections to what was tabled, and that was a year ago. To the committee at the National Assembly. So they have no excuse except for deliberately, intentionally kicking this can down the road because they do not want to rock the boat of their little constituencies, what the Caribbean call your garrison constituencies. Imagine Fort George after the re-registration, gentlemen and Belizeans, Fort George had over 3,000 voters going into re-registration. After re-registration, it dropped down to 1,700 plus. It was almost cut in half.
Wow.
Imagine.
All right. Listen.
1,700 voters did not live in Fort George, but were voting and making the results of that go the way they have been going.
All right. Before you go, I want to get back to Jerry. So I want to ask you this in your closing comments. The constituency that you just mentioned, which is the Honorable Charles Usher, who is also in charge of public service, and within his ministry, he's responsible for the PCC, which is a exercise in attempting to correct those things inside of our Constitution that needs to be looked at and corrected. Do you think that the final document of the PCC will have in it recommendations to correct this obstructionist thinking on the part of the rulership government? Because that's an obstructionist thinking for you to be saying that, look, make we do it later because I don't want to interfere, especially within 10 people in this Belize City area. I don't want to mess with that, which is obstructionist because the Constitution, not look for your opinion. The Constitution is demanding what you do. So can the PCC include in their recommendations for an improved Constitution punitive damages, if necessary, for those who refuse to correct this and not leaving it up just to the discretion of the executive? I'll ask you, and then I'll also ask Jerry to comment on that. What's your thoughts, Bobby?
Absolutely must be done. We must take out the gray area of merely as equal and put in the Constitution 10 to 15% max. So let that be. I think Trinidad has that in their Constitution, so there's no gray area that you could play with it. No, let's enshrine it in our Constitution and give it a fixed variance of 10 to 15 because that is international norm.
All right.
And I'll close quickly with this.
Yeah.
You know that the court appointed an expert witness. Remember, not our witness, the court appointed witness to do a redistricting exercise and give it to the court. The gentleman in his 60-page report to the court said, in this day and age, and Jerry alluded to it, that exercise he could do in a matter of hours.
Yeah.
It's a lame excuse that we need to be kicking this can down the road because there is not enough time. And I'll also remind the people of Belize that there is a 90-day extension after the 5-year period in the Constitution. So we actually have till next February 2026 to call an election. So there is more than enough time to redistrict and let's get our democracy in the right order so that my vote is as equal to every other vote in this country, and let's start building a strong democracy that works for all. Gentlemen and Belizeans, wake up and let's start being more involved in how our country is run. Otherwise, it's going to continue to go down, and we can't allow that. Stand by the wayside and not do anything. Congrats, Jerry.
Thanks, Bobby.
Godspeed on your journey, and you have our support. Our case is still in court, but I like the angle that you have brought with your claimant, and congratulations that you were able to find an attorney to take it on. Unfortunately, no Belizean attorney would have stepped up, so that's the way it has to be, and the Almighty has provided that. Amen, guys.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. Jerry, let's take our next break because I don't want to disturb you. I know that you have a lot to say. Caller will take this. I really don't want to disturb the callers.
Let's take the call.
All right, we'll go ahead. All right. Welcome, caller.
Just me back quickly and Nuri to get the listeners to understand. Let us say a division has 10,000 people and one division has 2,000. Divide the 10,000 by the 2,000 to find how much one human being in the 2,000 division is worth compared to the other. Yeah. So one human being in the 2,000 division is equal to 5 in the other division.
Yep, yep, that's it right there. That's the maths of it right there, Miss Coy.
Exactly.
That's the maths.
So that then helps you, the listeners, to understand that you have less value.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or you are 5 to 1, you who belong in the 5 crowd, you have less value than the person, than the one in the 2,000 group. Bye-bye.
All right, good.
Thanks very much.
I wonder if that means that, why?
And that is what the current, this administration is trying to keep that status quo going.
Yeah, but it sounds like that status quo is saying, why? You know, the con with no $100. I'm worth about 500. Don't you know the size of my vote? Anyway, we'll take the break and come back. All right, we continue to have this very profound conversation with Mr. Jerry Enriquez this morning, and we appreciate the callers that have come in to enhance and to broaden the conversation. Jerry, we have the rest of the show primarily for you and any callers that call in. We're free from our breaks now. So our number here is 280-5848, and please.
I'm really grateful for the insights shared by Ms. Sandra Coy and Mr. Bobby Lopez to provide more clarity and also to get people to really think about the situation we're faced with. One of the things that I would like to mention is that through all of this, one of the bottlenecks in this whole problem is the Elections and Boundaries Commission. That commission is loaded with political party persons who were committed or are committed or came from one political party to another. And sometimes
but aren't they
and they're supposed to be objective, looking at the Constitution as a guide.
So there's 5. There's 2 on the UDP side, 2 on the PUP side, and then the chairman, which is usually
from the Prime Minister still.
Right. So and you're in the
so you have still these both political parties in a sense influencing through the persons they select. The Elections and Boundaries Commission, when that should actually be an objective body that is free of those political parties. Probably.
I hear Guyana just did their changeover to take it completely out of government control and make it a
so while we say this is out of government control, the political party influence is one of the bottlenecks that we're experiencing. And so these guys, in my view, they have been, in a sense, narrow to continue to protect the status quo. So even when changes are recommended, it is not within the essence of the Constitution, in which we should have near as equal as possible. And so the proposal that they made has this wide variation between 25 to 35%. So that is another root cause for this to continue to. So the Prime Minister could always say, well, we're waiting for the Elections and Boundaries Commission, wink, wink, but these guys from both political parties have demonstrated no commitment to get this done in time and in the essence of what the Constitution states.
All right, here's another call. Yes, welcome, caller. Welcome, caller.
I'm just back again with another observation with responding to something Mr. Enriquez just said. You see, the problem is that we are committed to dynastic rule. We are committed, so when you're committed to dynastic rule, you're building the family and the extended family as your political base. So what we need now is no lawyer in this country should agree to go to court to defend the government. They should properly advise the government that comply with the law, comply with the Constitution, comply with it. And then if you can get the legal community in this country to understand that they are part of the problem.
Yes.
This is one money you should not accept. You should not be willing to be paid to maintain our people in bondage, because it's in bondage you're keeping them.
Yes. All right.
And you should not be willing to take that money. But more than that, you should use your wisdom and advise the Prime Minister and the entire government, the two sides of the aisle, the entire government, because they are 6 to 1 and a half of us together, that you are wrong to challenge this thing. It is in the law. Comply with the law.
All right.
Comply with it. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Now listen,
excellent.
She is so on point. Yes. You are on point. Lopez is on point. I want to ask you this kind of off the wall. Could part of this main problem be, especially here in Belize City, that the politicians themselves in the same party, if you have to split up 10 constituencies in this region and begin to say, well, Fort George, you need to go with Pickstock. How do you decide who in the Pickstock or Fort George will become the area representative?
That's why I say they're looking at their own egos.
So you're looking at each other and saying,
rather than the well-being
I'm not willing to give it up.
Yeah.
So are you willing to give it up?
Yeah.
Welcome, caller. Yeah, are you with us, caller? Yeah, caller, are you with us?
Yes, hello.
Yeah, man, please, go ahead.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Yes, this is the radio to the classroom, correct?
Yeah, this is, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you for allowing me. I wanted to mention the aspect of even the geographic location and terrain, the disparity that exists there within. An area like Toledo East, for example, you have to go all the way from Monkey River to Dolores and Machakila. All of that is Toledo East. When those areas in Belize City can get on a bicycle and ride their zone, you know?
Yeah.
There is a big discussion. Whereas I fully agree with Brother Enriquez on the population issue, there is huge disparity. Looking south, Staff Request, Toledo East, and those areas with the geographic terrain and the dimension of these divisions.
Yes, sir.
That's my input.
Very, very good point. Very good point.
Let me say that, in fact, the Constitution has that geographic location ought to also be considered in the redistricting.
As a matter of fact, Will called here last week on this show and said the same thing.
Yeah.
That, you know, what Ms. Mai needs to look at is, even within the present circumstance, put more polling stations in those areas. You already don't got it off.
Exactly.
But don't have a person have to ride from Monkey River all the way to Dolores to find one polling booth. Put more polling booths in those areas. So maybe they will do that.
I hope so.
Anyway, we're at almost the close. I saw that as one of the concerns, that ego-driven position is even within the party.
Exactly.
Because, you know, it's not only we're not redistricting because we don't want to give support to the opposition or to these people who are suing us, but we don't want to lose our own area.
As Ms. Koye said, they're trying to deepen a dynastic kind of...
Precisely.
All these family trying to take root for the whole country, as if setting out like many kings in their own princes.
Is it though, Jerry, that when you look at our situation in Belize, and this by extension the points we were making earlier, haven't we come into an era that might makes right? Aren't we now returned to that period where you have an individual like Trump that thinks that he is mighty enough that he doesn't only speak to his constituency, but he uses the world as his constituency to tell you what I want to do with your country and how I want to take back this and how I want to send this across here. He's mighty.
Yeah, these things only happen over time as people deepen their apathy and just remain unconcerned, and they pass that to another generation and not care. Leaders like these rise up. It's kind of a karmic effect of their own apathy and disengagement from seeing that whenever you see things wrong happening, you need to find ways to address it. But if you keep sweeping it under the carpet, one day somebody will come and will take advantage of you in that situation.
Wouldn't you say, and so many have said this before, that we're living in imperialistic times. And one of the ways that imperialists use in their governance process is distraction.
Yes.
If I could distract you, you know, the Romans used to give you circuses, I mean, and gladiators, and you know, you get out there and you're into that, you don't even think about holding the government.
Santa Claus parades, carnivals, and
all right. So Do we see that going on in our environment? Is that there's a carnival and why would it come up now, another bashment class here? And we don't have no time for the talk.
And on top of that, then you feed them with alcohol and all of that.
Precisely.
And so people are losing their whole minds. That is why I want to get into later on. That's why I am passionate about mindfulness and all that for people.
Yes, very important. This got to be our last call. Welcome, caller.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
To the guy beside you.
That man's name is Jerry Enriquez. Jerry Enriquez.
Okay. I want to know how much money it costs to do the redistricting.
How much money and cost to do? I don't know.
They do the full redistricting.
That's a very good question, because I remember speaking with a minister of government in a store and said, man, that would be too expensive. It should not cause much. As I said, it's not an expense. It shouldn't be, there are technologies that could be used to do that redistricting, as Mr. Lopez said earlier, without much cost.
So what is the price? I want to know.
I have no idea about the price. I'll leave that to the technocrats.
Okay. Well, okay. As I said, make a short what I'm going to say. Because they say, well, like, so what are the problems? Because if the government have 18 months of doing it for the first time, I look, it seems like that sure document is there to make it happen after any time the election call, or maybe the polling group and the opposition group must say the same way to wait until way down to November, like when the last government call it, October or November the 11th. Yeah, if we go down to the correct 5 years, but what I think is that the PUP was looking on before 84. You see, when the money the ruling of this country, that between December to way into April, and after we make the budget, and we go beat everybody in the outer world for whatever donation, blah, 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 and put it together. So when he negotiated thing, we never had to carry it on the card in March, when we get it in March, you see. So that have a political move where we done this up. So I think this all this government is trying to bring it back. But the government says, oh, hey, we can't have no election until you do the redistricting. Hey, it's so not like that right now, this government today can, I don't know who they say, he may announce so there, but I think that the media, they push that out there, must get conversation for people like the UDP and other people who are running the government. I will ask this last question to you. Will your party be in the election, sir?
I don't have a party, sir. I'm not connected to any party.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for the call, brother. All right. We've got to make last comments now, Jerry.
Okay.
But clearly, this is not a matter that is finished, because the House meeting today will open the door to a lot of what is happening here. And certainly between now and the call of election, if this matter is not addressed, you could see this going.
It's going to go.
It's going to be conflict.
Yes.
Yeah, this sounds like it's going all the way.
We've already indicated to the government
CCJ.
that once they break the law, then they will be held liable. We cannot continue. But I just want to wrap up by saying this.
All right. Yeah.
I keep asking the question: how is it that the area representative from Stan Creek West, with more than 10,000 registered voters, the area representative from Belmopan with over 10,000 registered voters, Belize Rural North with over 10,000 registered voters, Belize Rural South. Then you have Kaya North, Kaya Central, Kaya West, very much more than the average. How is it that they could sit in cabinet each time and allow this to continue to fester? Why wasn't there any concern expressed to get this done? And how is it that they are starting to campaign with this severe malapportioned electoral divisions? What is it that make these men continue to want to preserve the status quo? So I'll throw that out just because I would like them to think very clearly that they are part of the problem if they continue to allow this to happen. Organizations I called out, Chamber of Commerce, well, the Bar Association, we saw their connections and their ownership and all of that. Belize Network of NGOs, all these organizations need to voice very strongly whether or not they support the status quo. Their silence thus far demonstrates support because it continues the status quo. So they need to voice also whether or not. Otherwise, if you keep silent about this and hoping it will go away, it will not go away, as we have seen, because the election was just about to be called and you all were silent for the past 4 years. Something needs to be done. And then finally, I need to say that this case, although the attorney is doing it pretty much pro bono, there is still logistical and other on these costs that I think the beliefs there is interest in on our part, my part, to find ways to raise some funds to be able to help to carry
where
this
can
through.
they get in contact with
Not
you?
yet. We're trying to still do, all this is new. We're going to do a GoFundMe page.
Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to
ask the
identify
citizens
your
to
attorney.
contribute.
And I wanted him to be on the show today.
He
but
cannot
as
be
you
on the
said,
show
because of
because
the case.
this
the
is a
case.
live
But
thing
tell
going
us,
on.
just take a minute and tell us something. He was the former
Attorney General of Trinidad and
Trinidad.
Tobago. He's an international constitutional attorney.
Okay.
He's known. He's very highly qualified. He's worked with the Privy Council at some point. He also is known as a poor man's lawyer. He does a lot of advocacy work and all of that.
We don't have too many of those in Belize anymore.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
So he has his legal team. He has his legal team also helping to work on this. I've spent sleepless nights providing information, and we're just trying to keep ahead of the game. I know, again, as Ms. Koi mentioned, the government is reaching out to our local attorneys. I don't know, to keep fighting against the Constitution and the wish of the people. No Belizean attorney should join the government to violate the Constitution. I'm appalled that that is the direction that they want to go just to maintain the status quo.
You know, it's interesting as you're talking here, it would almost seem kind of comical.
Yes.
That those representatives, like mentioned Ferguson, who has such a huge constituency, has less power in the cabinet than Charles Usher, who has like 3 times less what he has, but Charles have far more power in a smaller constituency than, say, Mr. Rikenya, who has a very large
Our system is rigged for the family dynasty that is entrenching themselves to run this country as if it is their personal real estate and all that. So it is a crisis in the Constitution that needs to be corrected.
Thank you very much for being with us this morning, Jerry Enriquez. And indeed, this is another form of mindfulness, because you got to have yourself together for you to take on the powers that you are taking on in this particular case. And believe me, people of power know how to intimidate you. So for you to get past the intimidation and the fear and speak truth to power, you gotta be prayerful.
That's an important thing that you mentioned. I know people are forming their own opinions. Some are very divisive. Some people are very destructive and sometimes hateful in the way they view the world. And it is on them, because if your heart is not grounded on the truth, then all you'll want to do is destroy or protect those same things that are destroying you. So I appeal to people to see this as something that will make our society better. It is not fair. It is not right. It is illegal what the government is doing, and this has to stop. This is not about protecting one political party or another. This is for all Belizeans to benefit, to make sure that our democracy works and that we have fair representation countrywide.
All right. That's it for us this morning. We thank Mr. Enriquez for being our guest. We also thank those who called in. Sandra, thank you very much for your input this morning. Thank you also, Mr. Bobby Lopez, for your input. And the other 2 callers, you asked questions, but your input was also very valuable to the conversation this morning. I think this is something naturally that has to continue. It's not an occasion, but it's rather an opening of another chapter of getting things right in this country. And it's very, very important that we stay engaged. We know that you gentlemen and ladies are listening to this program this morning on your way to the House meeting. And we do hope that what has happened this morning contributes positively to your thought processes as you enter into that very important place called the National Assembly. For me this morning, we want to thank Mr. Anthony Grant downstairs in simulcast. Upstairs, we had Ms. Alexi Bilaid as our MCO this morning. We have Mr. Clifton Lewis as is normal. And we thank you. Mose will be back here on Monday, inshallah, to continue this premier conversation every weekday morning here in Belize. Belizeans, stand strong and stand firm. Lord, man, do the right thing. For now, we're gone.
Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day it's here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put the time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice our freedom, not place of calling. WB. Be yourself, see yourself. This is the show of people. Belize our hopes of to needless reason. Nobody feel about this divide we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah. Love, respect, all selfishness and cooperation. That's all we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes. WB. And all the things that we feel happen like that blue skies. I don't think that people get victimized. Just work together for better. We got to unite. Belize, yeah. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day it's here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize.